Can you see me? I need to scoot closer. Do I need to scoot backwards? Oh my. I live in my parents' house. What's up, y'all? My name is Kaylee. This is the first video that I've done like this. This is the first time we've ever done something like this. This has always been something I've wanted to do. But today, we've been encouraged, we've been pressed, we've been directed to share my personal testimony of coming to Christ. So here we are. I have paper because if I didn't write things down, with my brain, things not organized, this would be a disaster. So, okay, so my testimony is kind of strange. There's a lot to it. If you get lost, that is okay, because I get lost too. So, I'm gonna do my best to keep this short. So here we go. Putting my thinking cap on. So I grew up in a Catholic Christian family, and we grew up going to church every Sunday. So I also went to Catholic grade school and Catholic high school, which was actually my choice. So grew up, you know, learning about Jesus, knowing who Jesus was, going to church, all those good hunky-dory things. But I never knew anything about having a real relationship with Jesus, or things like that. So when I was younger, God was kind of always a part of my life. I always knew he was around. My grandma was a big influence on me regarding faith and trusting God, and even kind of praying every now and then, just talking to God, or just knowing he was there. So that was kind of always a thing for me. In school, I never really fit in, at least in my perspective. I definitely felt very much like an outcast a lot of the time. I never really had a lot of friends, never really kept friends, kind of just always just fell into a friend group of the people who weren't popular, or people who were kind of just on the outskirts. And that was kind of always the case in both, more so in grade school, but still kind of in high school. Part of that maybe was because I was more of an artistic theater, music, art, choir kind of person, kid. So I also went to a smaller grade school, so that really didn't help there in regards to having more people to be friends with. So my home life. At home, I grew up pretty well off. I would say that my family raised me well. So after going through and editing this, I realized I didn't really talk about / gives enough love from my family out there. I purposely said the things you'll hear next just to explain the emotional struggle, because we're talking about the testimony that I had growing up, which wasn't solely influenced by them. It was just my perspective and how I felt. And feelings, while valid, are not always the truth. But what I do want to say is that you don't really start to realize how much your parents love you and how much they did for you until you start to become an adult. And my parents did everything for my brother and I. Yes, I have a brother. They definitely loved us, pushed us, and encouraged us. And they are some fun-loving, kind, and very thoughtful people. And they're pretty crazy. But my whole family kind of is, in the best way possible. Also, my brother and I pretty much had the best childhood because we lived in Orlando for 2 years right next to Disney World, and it basically became our playground. Also, I was no angel either as a kid, and I would have not wanted to deal with me growing up either. Okay, back to the video. But I never really had a deep relationship with them. I can't talk. I never really had deep relationships with them where I could open up and talk about emotional things, or personal matters, or traumas, or bad experiences or anything like that. So I didn't really have that emotional grounding of relationship at home in my house. So that caused me with a lot of hard things in my life to definitely bottle those things inside, and to never really talk about those with anybody or anything like that, which is not good, kids. But I also internalized a lot of dysfunctional behavior that I had experienced growing up, and also abusive behaviors that I had experienced. So with that, I'm writing off my paper now because I can't do things. I was insecure and lacked confidence, yes, and was always seeking other people's approval, whether that was the approval, the approval of my parents, approval of other people, and I took criticism and, what was the word, correction, very personally and very seriously. To the point where I like would beat myself up for things, and I still have trouble with those things. So that was kind of what caused the good girl thing in me, always putting on this mask of, what did it say? Persona of being like perfect and good, which internally killed me, and made me never feel like I was really good enough. And that was kind of constantly reiterated throughout my whole experience growing up to this point in time, of which I'm 22 years old now. So there you go, kids. So kind of adding on to that, growing up was also difficult because if you didn't notice already, depending on how I cut this video, I was diagnosed with Tourette syndrome when I was 10 years old. Tourette's is basically a neurological disorder, meaning it has to do with your brain and your nervous system. Wow, I don't even know what I have. So with Tourette syndrome, you basically have uncontrollable physical movements or vocalizations that it can take the form of what's called tics. Basically, tics are like different things that like you do. So one of the things that I do is like I raise my eyebrows a lot, or I like twitch my face, or kind of like put my head back. There has been times when I'm really anxious or really like stressed out, and like I kind of like go like that on my skin, and then I leave a bunch of scratches on my arms, mostly my legs, and it can cause scratches and bruising. And that definitely intensified a lot of those feelings and thoughts and just perspective of myself, of not feeling like I was enough, feeling like rejected and outcast, and like no one really wanted to be my friend because of the Tourette's, or because people would be my friend because they'd feel bad for me or something like that. So with that, I kind of definitely isolated myself a lot more, thinking, kind of like bullying myself before anybody really could, because I was fortunate enough to not have anyone really bully me about it, but it was always kind of like this subconscious thing of like, do people like really want to be friends with me because of it, or having to deal with people looking at you in public, or so with that, it kind of led me to not wanting people to pity me and trying to prove myself, and again seeking other people's approval, and just this desire to be normal. I struggled with wanting to be normal, and that you're gonna see how that plays into the Jesus part of this and all that cool stuff. So cool. And still, even to this day, I'm still just kind of coming to the realization of, oh yeah, Tourette's did affect me growing up, like mentally, emotionally, and all these other things, that I pretended that it was this thing that like wasn't a part of me, and I ignored it about myself, and pretended that it didn't bother me, and that, yeah, the big thing of that is like I just didn't want anyone to feel sorry for me, when in reality I really did. But anyway, let's not go there. So with the Tourette's, music definitely became a big part of my life, and definitely my escapism for Tourette's. I always grew up singing. I had wanted to like pursue music since I was like 3 years old, wanted to be the next Taylor Swift and Hannah Montana. And basically when I was a freshman in high school, I taught myself how to play the guitar, and then I started writing songs because, again, I wanted to be the next Taylor Swift. I basically started pursuing music, but I started chasing after it for the wrong reasons. So kind of all those insecurities, the seeking other people's approval, and the feeling rejected and outcast, and just wanting, to be heard and to be acknowledged as a person who has value and worth and all those things, and having the Tourette's, it definitely like led to me wanting to prove myself, and not just prove that I was a normal person, but that I was better than normal people, that just because I had this I don't want to say disease, but have this disability, I guess you could say, that like it doesn't stop me from doing anything. But that's like not coming from a good place, it was coming from a bad place. So along with the Tourette's and the stuff from growing up, it kind of culminated like in this musical thing, and then on top of it, like I started to get really mad at my family because in my mind, I didn't want to go to college. I wanted to like basically be I'm not even kidding, like basically be Taylor Swift and like not go to school and like go pursue music and stuff like that. And my parents were like not, you know, they were not with it, so I was mad at them, and I felt like they were like killing my dreams and stuff like that. But long story short, I went to college, and in college is where I basically met Jesus. In entering college, my faith was kind of a big thing for me. I definitely still wanted to devote my time to and devote my life to, specifically in college. So here's where the story gets really, really weird. And just bear with me because I didn't write this. If you're confused, it's okay. You can backtrack, or better yet, I don't know. I was a freshman in college during 2016, and 2016 was the year of the election, you know, and that's a crazy thing in itself. Mostly at that point, I started to be on this big search for truth. Part of that was because, okay, so I have these beliefs, and I'm like, but why do I believe these things? And then also like annoyed with a lot of the media and mainstream culture and a lot of the lies that were being thrown around. You know, that whole thing. Fake news started becoming a thing. But I was just started having this real search for truth. And I originally had found it, for me, kind of in politics. But after about a year, I kind of got sick and tired of trying to keep up with all the silly arguments, the fighting, the name calling. And it just was not enough. And I think also with that, it was just not the full truth, if that makes sense. So at this point, this was a really unique way of how God was kind of drawing me to himself, kind of showing me personally how, and some of y'all may not like this, but showing me how he was working in the midst of the 2016 election, and also just giving me a more spiritually based and faith-based perspective of what was really going on in the world. So with that, long story short, on my quest for truth, it eventually led me to Jesus and to the Bible and to scripture. And a lot of crazy things happened in between, specifically to ask two questions, and that was, how do I know if I'm saved? And how do I know if I know Jesus? Of which I couldn't really answer either of those questions. So I had found basically 2 videos on YouTube that answered those questions. This was the summer before my sophomore year of college. And after watching those videos, I had fallen to my face and had surrendered my life to Jesus. And had basically like confessed my sins and stuff like that, and actually asked to be in relationship with him and to believe in Jesus. Because it's not like I didn't necessarily believe in Jesus before, but I didn't have a relationship with him. And that makes all the difference. Yeah, so basically repenting from, and the reason I say these things is because you'll see in a minute, but like repenting from things like pursuing my dreams for the wrong reason and stuff like that. And like God is still, as I wrote on my paper, and it's like God's still like transforming those dreams and desires. And one thing I do want to mention, which is kind of embarrassing, but this is definitely like not a me thing. One of the sins that I was struggling with at the time was secret like sexual sin, the big M word. And the reason I say that is because the moment that I was basically struggling to stop those things before, and then the minute that I had truly surrendered my life to Christ, it was gone. Like, it was immediately gone. I had like made efforts and promises to stop, and it wasn't until that I surrendered to Jesus that those things disappeared like that. So backtrack for 5 seconds. We can cut into this. So my Catholic faith was something that was really important to me in coming into college. It was something that I wanted to keep up And because of that, I decided to become part of the Newman Center at my college, which is also called the Catholic Student Association, at my university that I went to. Obviously, my sophomore year of college, I was still involved with the Newman Center. I was still involved with CSA, is what we called it. But that was really the year that I started reading the Bible, specifically the New Testament, and I started really having like a true relationship with Christ, and God began to make me aware of some things that Scripture did not line up with in Catholicism, of which I began to be convicted and kind of be like, I can't do this anymore, in a sense. That I prayed for about a year and asked God. I said, I can't do this. Like, if you want me to stay, I'll stay, but if you want me to go, like, and find another church or group of people which I have no access to, and I don't know anyone or anything like that, like, please, like, you gotta do that for me, like, type thing. My following year, my junior year of college, I actually had a random roommate who just so happened to be Christian and be part of a different church group on campus. So, long story short, I transitioned out of my time at the Newman Center and started becoming a part of what is called H2O Church. In becoming a part of H2O, the fall semester of my junior year, I went to their fall retreat, which definitely changed my life, and I got rebaptized, which was something I had not at the time like rejoiced over because I was so afraid of people finding out, and I still like kind of look back and I'm like, oh yeah, I did get rebaptized. So that was a cool thing that happened, and then I basically started going to H2O Church ever since. While there's still a miraculous amount of things that I could talk about that happened in my college experience with the Lord, we can talk about that another time, but so kind of flash forward to now. I am graduated from college in the midst of COVID. It has been super hard season. Definitely a season of being pruned and gutted out, and lots of just tough, nitty-gritty, hard stuff. Like, when God cuts you up, he cuts you up. And I think also there's just been a real struggle with anxiety and depression, which we can talk about at a later date. Kinda how with COVID I had a Job moment. My life I had a life in college, and that's just how it goes, kids. God does some wonderful things, and then what he gives, he also sometimes takes away, and that's just how it is. So transition's great. It's just a wonderful season. That is so much sarcasm and so much fake smiling. Okay. Graduated college, we lost some relationships, major community, poor, broke, jobless, college graduate. But I have written here, which I still need to be reminded of a lot, especially in this season, in which it's been very hard, that God is still good, and that it's not easy, kids. So yeah, that's my testimony in somewhat of a nutshell. I obviously didn't cover everything, and there's a lot there that there probably was a lot of disconnect in regards to my story. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If things didn't make sense, you're not alone. I will do my best. If you have any questions in the comments, please be kind and courteous. Alright, y'all, that's all I got. So I'm so uncomfortable.